Today in this video I'm going to be wrapping up The Women of Brewster Place by Gloria Naylor. I read this not last week, I finished it the week before for the Barter Hordes Backlist Book Club, but I'm wrapping it up today because we had our discussion last week. But every time I think about talking about this book, I think about Gloria Gaynor. And all of a sudden the song I Will Survive comes into my head, and immediately I feel like breaking out into song. But this is written by Gloria Naylor, so this woman did not write I Will Survive, and I will not, for your benefit and the safety of your earlobes, break out into song. Hi BookTube, it's Kim at K Becker's Books. This is My Bookish week. I don't know the date today. 25th, 26th, I think. 27th, 20. Yeah, today's 26th. I don't know why I don't bother to look at the calendar before I start the video. Who cares? Whatever. Here's what I did last week in my bookish life. Let's see, I'm going to wrap up Women of Brewster Place, but I had one DNF and I finished one spectacular book. So the DNF first, Bad Before the Good. I DNF'd Medusa Uploaded by Emily Davenport. This is a science fiction. I showed you this cover. I love the artwork on this cover. Did not love the book. Here's why. This is a book about Oichi, who is a worm in a generational ship. She's basically a servant. This book the author kind of goes back and forth in time sequences, extremely confusing to follow. So you don't know whether Oichi is talking in the present, or if she's relaying an event that happened in the past, or if she's talking about somebody else. There are many times that the character addresses the reader. Absolutely hate that, because in this book it was not done well at all. And there is a kind of a secret criminal society in this book, and the acts that they perpetrate are not really, in my opinion, are not written with enough sensitivity. And I think I got like 75 pages into the book maybe, and maybe that would change. I don't know. If anybody has read it and want to let me know if that changes, I'd appreciate it. But this was not the book for me, even though I felt like reading a science fiction or a fantasy, and I still do because I didn't finish this one. That was a DNF for me. So, Gloria Naylor's The Women of Brewster Place. We read this for the, again, Barter Hordes Backlist Book Group. I really liked this book. I loved it. I didn't give it a 5-star, but I did give it 4 stars. I thought it was beautifully written, and this is her debut novel. It is listed as a novel, even though it reads like interlinked short stories, which is fine, because all of the characters come from the same community, which is basically the projects at Brewster Place. It is a community of women. There are men who live there, but the main stories focus on the women of Brewster Place, hence the title. But each of the women's experiences is written a little bit differently, and the focus is on something different in their life or in their past. I thought the novel was strongest when Naylor was writing about the character Maddie. Now, if you've ever watched, there's a movie, and I think there's a miniseries, and Oprah, I think, plays Maddie. I remember seeing pieces of it a while ago. But the strength of this book comes in the interaction between the women in the community, and how they kind of become a cohesive group, how they interact with each other, the dynamics. This is one of those situations where there's a lot of gossip, everybody knows everybody, everybody's in your business, and a lot of information going back and forth. There are really horrifying events that happen to some of these women, and this author writes them. They happen in such chilling ways, and she's able to evoke those emotions in the way she's writing, and she's building up somewhat of suspense for the reader to then realize what's happening in these women's lives and what that's going to do to their psyche. Her writing, there are parts of her writing that reminded me very much of Toni Morrison, and there are parts of her writing that read like poetry. It's like I'm looking at the words, trying not to blink because I don't want to miss anything. And then the part of the book that was a little weak for me was it got to the point where there were such beautiful sections of writing and such poetic language, and then it would go into something very quickly that was a little more plain and slow, a little weaker. The dialogue was crisp and it drove the story. You got to see how the characters spoke with each other, what they felt about each other through the dialogue. And even when they were talking to each other, there was an inner monologue going on at the same time where you knew who felt what about the other, and which woman was just passionately loving towards the other woman as their best friend in the world. And it really was a beautiful book. It's very short, and one of my other complaints was I wanted more of the story of several of the characters. Very well written. I'm extremely impressed that this was her first book. And it's interesting because the book was published in, I always do this to you guys, and I make you wait until I find the date, and that's because I wasn't planning on talking about this. 1980. This was published in 1980. As I was reading it, I'm like, this sounds like Bernardine Evaristo's Girl, Woman, Other. Dang. She probably took some inspiration from this book and was motivated by the language and by the format in this book. Maybe, I don't know. I'm just assuming. But it was a great book. I loved it. I think too short. I'd love to go back and read some more, but it was very good and I really liked it a lot. All right. The other book I finished last week, and I actually just finished it yesterday, is Sugibane by Douglas Stewart. This is shortlisted for the Booker Prize this year. Sugibane is Douglas Stewart's debut novel. Again, I can't put into words enough how spectacular this is as a debut novel. Sugibane is the story of a young boy named Sugibane. The story opens up with we see him moving into an apartment, and he's only barely 16 years old. He's moving into a bedsit. And we read a little bit of his current story of why he's living there, what got him there, what his daily life is like. And then the book goes back in time to when he's a very young boy living with his family. I almost thought that this should be retitled Shuggy and Agnes Bane because his mother Agnes is a major part of the entire book, of the narrative. But ultimately this is Shuggy's story. She is the driving force behind the formation of his psyche and his intelligence and his life experiences. This book is exceptional. It is bleak, and one of the words on the jacket describes it as blistering. It's a perfect word to describe the narrative and the story. It is depressing and grim and dark, but there are so many redeeming moments and redeeming characters and redeeming conversations, and there's an undercurrent of passion and love on Shuggy's part and for him by his mother Agnes. The story is that Agnes is married to Big Shug, who is Shuggy's father. She has 2 children from a former marriage. It is set in Glasgow in the 80s, which is an incredibly stark environment after the point of Margaret Thatcher's policies, which drove out businesses from this area of Scotland, and so many men were put out of work. And there was nothing. There was nowhere for them to find work. It is a bleak depiction of what families had to do to eat, to survive. There's a lot of violence. There's a lot of alcohol. There's a lot of depravity and danger, physical danger in this story, in this environment. And to have that set as the backdrop for this family's story is just, it's like heart pounding when you're reading it, and it's heartbreaking at the same time. But I had nothing but love to see these characters succeed and to see them be safe and to find a genuine affection from somebody in their life. Agnes is an alcoholic. She is a drop-down drunk, and she gets to the point where she's basically buying alcohol and just doesn't have a care to try to find a way to buy food for her children, to support them through school, to be there physically, to care for them. So Shugi is the youngest, and he's a young boy who just loves his mother, is what we would call a mama's boy. He's extremely articulate. He is fastidious. He only wants to be around his mother. He wants to help her. He wants to take care of her. He wants to keep her safe. But as a child of an alcoholic, there's no way that he can do that successfully and still have a nurturing home life. But he just doesn't take that as an example or as an answer. He knows he can take care of his mother, and that's all he wants to do. It's such a heartbreaking and heartwarming story. It was very difficult for me to read because, we talk about triggers, but without giving too much information, I grew up with an alcoholic father, and this was clearly not the same setting and atmosphere. But there are certain things that happen in the book that triggered me, but also made me realize this is one of the most accurate and transparent depictions of alcoholism I've ever read in fiction. It's a spectacular book. Absolutely loved it. Brought tears to my eyes. 5 stars on Goodreads. Go out and buy this immediately. That's what I finished last week. What am I currently reading? I am finishing up the first quarter of These Truths up into and including the year 1799. So it's a discussion about the founding of the country and going into the Revolutionary War, the forming of the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, and the Constitution. So I'm finishing that part of the book. And probably today, I'm going to be reading the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, which is in this little Penguin Classics edition. It's a little tiny book, but it's got both of those documents in there. And then I'm going to read the Federalist Papers, which was written by Alexander Hamilton, John Jay, and James Madison. And I like these little editions, these little Penguin editions, and I think there's more. There's a Supreme Court decisions book, Common Sense by Thomas Paine, which I would love to acquire, Lincoln speeches, and American political speeches. So I would love to get the entire collection. But I am going to read these two for my nonfiction reading for the These Truths read-along. I am reading a novel for the These Truths read-along, is Geraldine Brooks' Caleb's Crossing. And I'm not at all far into this. But this is the story of set in Puritan New England? Puritan America. And I don't remember if it's New England. I think it is. Yeah, I think it's in Maine. I don't remember because, again, I'm not even that far into it. But this is the story of a girl named Bethia. She is the daughter of a Puritan minister who is basically trying to proselytize to the local Native Americans, Wampanoag tribe, I believe. And he takes on sort of an apprentice or an intern, if you will, of a Native American young man named Caleb. And it's talking about their experiences in 1600s America. I think it's 1600s. Caleb ends up being the first Native American to go to Harvard. And I'm just not far enough into it. So far, I really like it. I love Geraldine Brooks' writing. She's written several novels. People of the Book, The Year of Wonders, March. I think she won the Pulitzer for March, which is talking about the dad from the Little Women story. So, reading that one. And for my In Real Life book club, as I've said before, I'm still reading Queen of the South by Arturo Perez Reverte. This is the story of a female drug lord from Mexico traveling to Spain and Morocco. Again, this is not a book I should have liked, but I am enjoying reading it. It's different. It's different than anything I've read for years, and it's gritty and violent and dirty and scandalous and all of it, and I'm liking his writing and enjoying the story. So, hey, whatever. I can branch out every once in a while, right? I think that's about it for me. Victober's coming up pretty soon. What am I going to be doing for Victober? I am going to be doing a buddy read with Alba from Seriella, and we're gonna be reading Daniel Deronda by George Eliot. We read Middlemarch back in March, because it's in the title, March of the Mammoths, but we're going to be reading George Eliot's Daniel Deronda, and I love these old yellow trimmed Penguin classics, and I want to do the classics book tag soon, just to talk about classics. And this is the same version that Alba has, and I was like going out to thrift books dying to find the same thing, and I did. So we're going to be reading Daniel Deronda. I might try to put another book or two in there for Victober, but I have other books that I want to read during the same month of October, and so we'll see how that goes. Again, it's Saturday in New England. The leaves are gorgeous. It's chilly and partly sunny outside. Probably going to go outside for a pizza picnic. I think we're eating a lot of pizza these days. But that's kind of what my daughter and I have been doing lately. And so once we get into a routine or do the same thing twice, she sees it as this is what we're doing, and we're going to do the same thing every time. We're not going to change up what food we bring out to the park, and we're going to sit under the same tree, and we're going to bring the same blanket, and we're just going to go and enjoy the outside and have fun. So that's what we're doing today. Write a comment below if you've read any of the books, or write your thoughts, and talk to me about what looks good to you, if any of the books I've read or showed you look good. Let me know what's going on for Victober if you're taking part. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, I would love for you to do that, and thank you. And that's it. I hope you have a great week and you're reading good stuff, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.